How many of you are new that I haven't met before? Let me just, everybody raise their hands, kind of first-timers here. Okay, great. All right, and of the new people, are you familiar with Sufism? Have you been introduced to it before? Or is this all brand new? Okay, more or less brand new, is that what I'm saying?
No.
Tiny bit? Okay, all right, good. All right, well, I'm going to just kind of jump right in. I like to do it that way, just because, you know, if there's a pool, you know, you can put your toe in or you just jump in, right? Well, you might as well just jump in. All right, so have any of you been watching the news lately? Too much, exactly, trying not to. It's a crazy time, right? It's a very crazy time. In all the years that I've watched the news, I don't think I've ever seen it as crazy as this time. I mean, there's been some crazy times before, but this is the craziest. What did you say? And one of the reasons why I think it's crazy is because it's very difficult to know what's true. That's what really makes it so unusual. It's like before, you know, it was kind of very clear. You watch the news, light and dark, good and evil. You know, you knew what was going on. And, you know, you could kind of take your side and you say, okay, well, you know, you choose what you want. But you knew what it was. Today, you look at it, you don't have any idea what it is. You know, what's real? Is it real? What's true? What's not true? What's good? What's not good? What's evil? What's not evil? It's like nobody really knows. It's a very difficult time. If you really looked at the time, you could say this is, in my opinion, the greatest time of discernment and deception that we've ever seen. Okay. So, in the Sufi teachings, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, spoke about this time. So this is not anything we didn't know about. We just weren't quite expecting the power of it. You know, it's like when you know it's coming, but you don't quite expect it when it shows up. Well, we've heard about this for years and years and years, but now that it's here, it's so incredibly difficult to find your way through it that I think that's what makes it so fascinating in some way. And I think it is fascinating. And I also think it's not an easy thing to get through. So let me explain to you the Sufi teachings around this. It was said that there would come a time, this was 1,500 years ago, that there would come a time when we would be facing the time of deception. And the Prophet brought this through revelation. In other words, it was a revelation. A revelation means a vision. A revelation is a vision from God. So there are visions that come from all sorts of things, you know, but a revelation from God is the highest form of vision, okay? So we could say there's visions, and we say revelation. A revelation revelation literally means to reveal. It's revealing something from God. So when God reveals knowledge, that's a revelation. Okay, now, revelations are, you know, for most people, maybe once in their life they have a revelation, you know. Most of the time people may have what we call inspiration. Inspiration means that this is a lower form of it, where there's something from divinity that opens up inside of them, and it's a sense of pure knowing and rightness and a sense of, you know, it's transcendent. This is transcendence. There's a transcendent moment that people experience. But revelation is something beyond that. Revelation is, the way it's described is it's so clear as if you're so absolutely present in another world, and it's complete. You're there, you see it, you taste it, you smell it, you're in it, you're experiencing it, and it's the world of God. So it's not only another world, but it's the world of God itself. So the prophet and prophets, not only the prophet, But all prophets had this capacity for revelation. So they all received revelation from God. And that's what made them a prophet. A prophet is somebody who receives divine revelation. That's what distinguishes them from normal people, is that they have that level of constant revelation moving. Why would the prophets teach no false God, only the real God, unless there was a tendency to get caught by falseness? Right? I mean, it has to, in other words, if there was no tendency to get caught by falseness, why would you say that? What's the point of it? Because there's basically two aspects of creation. One of them, you could say, is truth, and one of them is false. Or you could say one of them is illusion, and one of them is reality. Okay, so at this time, the prophet, in his state of revelation, said, there will come a time in the future. He said, I don't know the date, but it's in the future. He said, not far in the future from a time of, perspective of God. But he said, one of the hallmarks of this time will be that the whole world will be fighting over something that they discover under the soils of Saudi Arabia. That's how he identified it. He said, when the whole world is fighting over something under the desert of Saudi, because he was living in Medina, but under, which is near Mecca in Saudi Arabia, he said, under the soil. So what's under the soil of Saudi Arabia? Oil. And is the whole world fighting over it? You think we're in that time? Okay, I think we are. Okay, so the point of this time is that when this time comes, that the world is going to be, because this is the time, when the way this time was described was the time of the Great Deception. This is the time of the Great Deception. The Great Deception was described as following. In this time, the ones of truth will look to be bad, and the ones of evil will look to be good. That was how the time was described. The people who are good will be made to look bad, and the people who are bad will be made to look good. Okay, so my statement to our group this morning is we're in that time. And for me, I'm watching it so closely that it's, it's very, very, very seductive. And one of the places that it particularly is playing out is in the movies. In the movies. And the movies are very, very deeply showing this, because this is a place of how the world is being manipulated by these forces. So how it works is that the reality of truth, what's real, in other words, goodness, love, peace, holiness, in the movies is all being shown as something bad. Why would you want that? And the things that are bad, such as lust, desires, evil, separation, materialism, are all being shown to be good. Okay, so if you watch the movies today, you'll see that there essentially are two powerful movements going on out there. One of them is movies that are really trying to bring something of the light. For example, the recent Star Wars, what was it, The New Hope or whatever it was an example of that. It really tried to capture this. But then there was another movie that came out right after it called Rogue One. I don't know if you've watched it. But Rogue One was this. So exactly within about a year of each other, these two major movies, all under the Star Wars banner, hit the scene at the same time, where one of them was trying to teach goodness and stepping into the goodness, where the other one was saying it was stepping into the goodness, was actually leading people into the badness. Okay. So why do I bring this all up? Because as human beings, one of our roles at this time is the ability to discern. That it's about discernment. That the key to getting through this ocean of the 21st century is discernment. This is the master key of this time. You have to be able to discern. Because it's going to be deceptive. In other words, it will look like one thing and it will be another. Stop for listening. In other words, you will look in one direction and it will be something else. The key is always with the heart. The key is always with the heart. So in deception, what we have to look at is the heart of what is actually going on. The heart of what is going on. So I've been watching this because I really believe the movies are one of the major vehicles that consciousness is spread through the world. I got a kick out of, it was actually kind of funny, but I watched Guardians of the Galaxy the other day, which I thought was a great spoof on Islam. It really was. If you really look at deeply what it was. Because the story is about, it all starts with God, which was a great big brain that was like floating through the universe and wanted to know itself. So, and this is of course classic Islamic teachings. And then God began to learn how to create existence. So God creates existence. And the name of God in this movie is ego. Okay, you see the deception? You see how you look at it here. It takes the story of Islam, which is God was all powerful, all knowing, but there was nothing but existent but God and no creation. Then God has the desire to be known, so God creates creation, and then wants creation to discover God. So then in the Guardians of the Galaxy, it takes that God is this great big brain floating around the universe who desires to be known, so he comes up with super forces to create existence and then names himself ego and tries to take over all of reality. You see the spoof on it, the deception? So anybody watching it, who doesn't know anything about any of the teachings, would actually see God as ego. I mean, it was like put right in front of your face. God is ego, therefore if you follow God, you're following ego. Okay? So it goes back that in the deepest understandings that I know is that God is the center point of all existence.